It's time to get chiseled with Rob Commodari.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chiseled. And why do we call it Chiseled? Because we're all a work in progress. I'm your host. I'm Rob Commodari. I'm also the author of the book Better Than You Think and co-authored 3 other books with multiple authors, one of which is our guest today, Glenn Morshower. We co-authored a book with about 20 other authors, I believe it was. The book was called The Network Effect. So Glenn Morshower is a prolific actor and motivational speaker. He's been in over 250 films and television productions. Most notably, he's recognized for a 7-year role as Agent Aaron Peace on 24. He's also General Morshower in the Transformers movies. He's had a load of movies he's been a part of. At age 12, he started acting. He was in his first feature film, Drive-In, at age 16. Then moving to Los Angeles, where he's built an amazing career. He's been in many notable films. He's been in, I think it's Air Force One, The Little Things, Black Hawk Down, and several others. Currently, he does some speaking classes, acting classes, which I've been able to observe. And he's married to his lovely high school sweetheart, Carolyn Elizabeth. So that's over 58. It's about 50, just under 50 years, if I got that right. Glenn, thank you so much for your time. All I want to say is to everybody that's listening is have your pens and paper ready. I met Glenn about 2 years ago, and there's not a time that I haven't seen him talk that I scribbled a ton of notes. Glenn, welcome to the show.
Rob, thank you, buddy. I'm glad to be here. Listen, you said it's time to get chiseled. Do I need to take off my shirt? Are we doing ab work today? What are we doing?
Hey, if you feel the need to do that and show those abs off, Glenn, you're welcome. It's your show.
Nobody wants to see 66-year-old abs that have gone unaddressed for the entire 66 years.
It's all good. We still love you. We love you for who you are, Glenn.
Yeah, let me tell your audience, let's just go ahead and move right into the truth. So Rob asked me a while ago about doing this show, and because, and only because I love and adore Rob, did I agree to it, because I'm not sure typically if I would rather do a podcast or have someone sandpaper my eyeballs, but I really, really adore Rob. And so the answer was just going to be yes. It was just a matter of time. And I fall under the weather so infrequently. Very, very rarely am I under the weather. I don't remember how many years it's been since I spent an entire day in bed, but I wound up doing another movie in New Mexico last week, and I have severe issues with dust. That's not something that needs to go to the internet anywhere, but I can't handle being around dust. And we were filming in a city jail that was abandoned. It's an old city jail, and clearly they don't have anyone cleaning it up. And so it was filled with, I'm sure, dust from the Kennedy administration. It was really, really filthy. And I was breathing that stuff, and I knew it was problematic. I knew a few hours into it that I could barely get through. My voice started changing and everything. And anyway, I took all that dust home, and it created a problem for me within a few days and just knocked me out. So Rob reaches out to me today to see, if we're good to go. And meanwhile, he's already on the air and ready to go. And I'm sawing logs in my bed trying to recover. I wake up and I've got messages from him. So I don't lack dedication, and I don't lack devotion to our friendship. And I really want to say this live. Rob, you're a sweetheart. And I don't have, as you will know as you get to know me better and better, I don't have an ounce of Hollywood to me. I don't think my poop is without aroma. I don't think I'm special. I think that we're all special. And if we could just maybe start down that path. I think the biggest flaw with humankind is that it's not aware of its own specialness. And I think that causes so many problems for people. So I just want to sincerely apologize for not being able to square away with you to get an accurate start time, and I've just been feeling like garbage. So we're going to be fine in this interview, but it's important that I say that because you're a brother to me.
I appreciate that, Glenn. We're going to chisel away that illness from you and bring out all the good stuff today.
Yeah, we'll be all right.
There you go. Yeah. So, I mean, if I was going to start with the idea, let me start with the beginning of like, how did you get into acting at age 12? And like what inspired you to do that? I want to go there first, but then I do want to go into what makes us all special, what makes us all unique. So
Sure.
go back to the age 12. I'm like, did you know at age 5, age 6, age 7, hey, I want to be an actor?
No, what happened? I didn't. In fact, the truth is, at age 5, I went out to play the lead in the story poem. I play, I don't know what you call it, but it was the story of Old King Cole. And they cast me as Old King Cole. And probably what they should have done, and I'm sure you guys get a chuckle out of this, they probably should have seen me shaking in my boots and realized I'm not the best choice for someone to do the lead in a play when I've never been in front of people, and it scared the snot out of me. So here's what happened. They cast me as Old King Cole. We rehearse, we get ready. I'm 5 years old. The room probably had 50 parents. I'm guessing now that I think about it. But as a kid, you think of it as an enormous performance hall. It wasn't. It was just this huge room at the nursery school. And they said, and now, Old King Cole. And the door they open. And I come out and I look at the audience and couldn't handle it and started crying and ran backstage.
No kidding.
That was my first outing ever, is that I couldn't even perform and I was inconsolable. That was the beginning of the play, was the end of the play. So no, I had no desire to be an actor. And then when I was 12, my mom took me and my brother Brian to the Dallas Theater Center, and I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of this. We went to see a play called A Christmas Carol, which was Charles Dickens' play. And I happened to know a young lady that was in the play. I didn't know she was in it until she walked out on stage. So it was a total surprise. And I was so enjoying, this is a professional production at Dallas's best theater, and a 435 seat theater, packed. And they looked like they were having so much fun. And certainly the audience was. And here was my thought. And I really believe I felt God's heavenly supervision in my life there. And I felt it because my friend Debbie Seagull was in the play. And my thought was, hey, Debbie looks like she's having a really good time. And if Debbie can do it, seems like I could do it. And those haunting memories of what happened when I was 5 were long since gone. So I wasn't afraid to try. And I mentioned it to my mom at the intermission. And thankfully she took action. And we went right to it. And she enrolled me the following week in teen theater classes at the Dallas Theater Center. And that was the beginning of it all. And I never looked back. And I took to it like a duck to water. And still to this day, Debbie, who is not involved in the acting field anymore, Debbie is so grateful that every time I talk about my beginning, I mention her first name and last, because had Debbie not been there, I cannot tell you that I would have been an actor. And here's why, Rob. Presence made it havable. And one of the things that I talk about a lot in all of my stage presentations with the extra mile is what I call estimated havability. How havable is this for me? If Debbie isn't there, then it's just a play, and it's just a play with a bunch of strangers, and there is no bridge, there is no connection. With Debbie being there, all of a sudden I'm looking and I'm going, wait, Debbie, me, we're friends, bridge, same age, Debbie can do it, I can do it. So the havability of it was really placed into my lap. Thank you, God. And that's, I'm sure, got a lot to do with why I said to Mom, can you? And thankfully, I had a mother who said yes, instead of saying, honey, that's not why I brought you to see the play, so that you could start training. She instead enrolled me, and the rest is history, as they say.
So you done all these movies, and you were young when you did that first feature film. But you leave at 18 to go to L.A. Did the family go to L.A. or did you decide, hey, I'm hooked on this stuff. I want to make it big. I'm going to L.A. on my own.
Yeah, hooked might be a strong word, but I definitely knew the first time the first time I stepped on stage, I knew that I was where I belonged. I knew that I had a sense of home there. I had a sense of purpose there, and I was good at it. And that's not being arrogant. Uh, that's the truth. You know, a lot of people don't like the first time they step on the ice. There are those who fall and they have about as much as a giraffe on roller skates on the ice, and others just take to the ice beautifully. I know that when I learned to snow ski, I did it with the greatest of ease and without any kind of training. I just put on the skis and went, oh, isn't that interesting how that feels? And started maneuvering. And it upset my wife because she had been skiing multiple times. And now I'm blowing by her and throwing snow and all of this. And she's just looking, going, you know. So that's how I took to acting. And by the time I had done my third play, I'd made the decision of what I was going to do with my life. So I decided it by the time I was 13 that this is my life. The plan was to go to Broadway, not film and TV. Didn't even think about it. And then
Okay.
film and TV came to me instead because they were looking to cast a movie called Drive-In when I was 16. I started doing TV commercials locally when I was 15, which opened that door of habitability. Stay with me because this is really good, folks, to understand that movies became havable because I started doing television commercials, right? And a
Hmm.
national commercial became havable because I did a regional commercial. A regional commercial became havable because I did a local commercial, and so on and so on and so on. So stair stepping your way to what you esteem to be havable, next level, next level. We always hear about next level living and so forth. So it was shown to me this is doable. Now, after 3 commercials in the can, I get an audition for not only a movie, but the lead in a movie. And I've never been in a movie. So, how do you wind up even having an opportunity? Well, I believe that opportunities are afforded us based on readiness. And I believe that my whole life. So, here's a phrase that I'm coaching about a lot recently, which I'd love to give to your audience, is in the midst of doubters, show them evidence to the contrary. Show them evidence to the contrary. Someone says, well, you can't do a lead in a movie. This is not a local schmokel deal. This is not an independent feature. This is Columbia Pictures. This is the studio that's doing this. And what do you know about movies? Show them evidence to the contrary. So my whole life has been about showing people evidence to the contrary. I almost would rather have people tell me what I can't do than tell me what I can do.
Is that like a competitive thing? Hey, let me show you what.
Yeah, except that it's a competitive thing without any attitude.
Right, I get it. I
There's
get
no
it.
attitude about it. It's not, hey, watch this. It's not that. It's just, it's a slight turn of the head of, oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So it makes it kind of fun. Really? So I've
That's good.
always been able to springboard in the face of doubt very favorably. I would even call doubt my friend, unless
Yeah.
doubt comes from me. And then doubt is not your friend.
I love
So
that.
I think doubt is worth celebrating in others. In fact, bring on all the doubt you want.
That's great. That is great. Glenn, you said a couple things I want to unpack here. You said you knew you were in your purpose. So you
Yes.
knew you were in your purpose, but what is that purpose?
That purpose is to connect with others in their feeling center. You can see I've given this thought. The purpose never had anything to do, or let me state that more accurately. That purpose was not led by what it could do for me. It was the way it felt being in alignment with something I was really good at that I felt I could make a difference with in the world.
Yeah.
right? I really felt like I could make a difference. I noticed very early on that I was able to produce a feeling shift in people's lives, whether that be that they are laughing, whether they are crying. But what I noticed is that they were captivated. And there was something about an energetic connection that you're really listening and you're really feeling. I've now traveled to your feeling center. And now that I have access to your feeling center, I can help you connect. You know, human beings for the longest time have been running from feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Colossal mistake. But people have been doing it in droves. In fact, the majority of people avoid emotion. I mean, why do you think we have drugs and alcoholism that are so
Yeah.
rampant in our society? Primarily, people don't want to feel what they're feeling. So they do what they do to escape that feeling. And what I would love is for them to have some measure of escape from their day to day lives, but not an escape that's costly, not an escape that injures them, but rather an escape that bolsters their life. And so, my reasoning for doing what I've chosen to do, I've always esteemed it to be noble. From very early on, it made sense to me why you enjoy doing this, Glenn. And I think the more we align with purpose, the easier the access is. I think we're granted access based on placing ourselves where we belong.
I get that, Glenn. I get that. And you said you used the word connectivity,
Yes.
and I'm listening to you. And I what I get from that is when I get up on stage or in front of a group and I'm speaking, you look at everybody in the eyes, but there's always shouldn't say, but there's always somebody or some people when you connect, you see them nodding, you see them really like leaning forward and really
Of course.
engaged, and that's that. I think that's that energy of connectivity that you're talking about.
Right. And in the event that I spot someone who's like this, I'll actually physically walk off the stage and go over and stand right next to them.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. I do it all the time because I want to break through. I mean, you talk about it's time to get chiseled. I want to break through that hardened, resistant edge that is protecting itself with this kind of body language. I want to get over and make a difference and get
Yeah.
them to release. It's not about controlling, it's about facilitation, like just being a facilitator. I really believe that all of us were created to facilitate, and then we get to decide what it is we're facilitating, right? But we are used, obviously, of vessels of divine activity to make a difference in this world. If the world didn't need me to be here, I wouldn't be here. And I feel that so strongly, and I'm compelled deeply by it. I know that although I believe that's true for everyone, and I do, I'm not just saying it, I do believe that. The problem is, not everyone does believe that about themselves. Not everyone holds the belief that they're on some sort of mission. In fact,
Hmm.
that you're on some sort of mission to me is clearly an exceptional state of mind when you think of yourself as there's work to be done. I start my day each day in gratitude, saying this, that life is a good gig. This is a good gig, and thank you for it. And now there's work to be done. So you've heard me say this in our meetings, Rob, but the vast majority of people see life as a gift, and I'm one of those people. But wait, there's more. I not only see it as a gift, I don't consider that to be the game changing difference maker. I believe that's important, and it certainly plays a major role. But the biggest role in terms of motivation is that beyond seeing it as a gift, I see it as an assignment. I see life as an assignment. And that means I've got work to do because I turn in that assignment not at the end of my life. I turn it in every day
Hmm.
in rehearsal for the time when I will turn in my life's work for the last time, and I'll be done with this earthly body. And I feel very strongly about that. So there is an accompanying intentionality about the way I live that seems to be different from a human who is down here just, for example, winging it, winging it. And that doesn't make me better. It doesn't make me more worthwhile. But what it does give me is a higher level of efficiency because I'm working with purpose. And anytime we have purpose for what we're doing, the first thing we do is we start getting rid of behaviors that are contrary to that purpose, right? You look at something from the standpoint of consequence, right? In this choice, consequence, cause, and effect world we live in, you're thinking in terms of, well, I might have the urge to do that thing or say that thing or make this choice or behave this way. But with every choice, there's a consequence. With every cause, there's an effect. So, do I want to inherit the consequence of this behavior? And then all of a sudden, you're choosing based on desired consequences instead of desired experiences. That's called a view of the macro instead of the micro. So, I'm always making decisions that are feeding a favorable macro, and it includes the discipline to forego micro pleasures at times.
I understand that. I get that. Glenn, there's like you say one thing, and I could ask you 10 questions from it. You talked about the gift and the assignment.
Yeah.
And when I'm listening to that, like you call it an assignment, part of me is like, okay, I get this gift, I get this talent. I look at it as a responsibility, a God-given responsibility that I'm supposed to share with you, that I'm supposed to share with others.
Yeah.
And would you see that one in the same breath?
I would see those words as completely interchangeable. And I want to be clear that when I say an assignment, what I don't want your audience to hear is an assignment equals burden.
No.
Right? Because there's no burden. Well, you think about, here, kids, we're going to send your butts home here's your homework assignment. So we start equating assignment with burdensome, right? I'm talking about a joyous assignment. Yes, the word responsibility works great there. The thing is, it's optional. It's beautifully optional, meaning it's up to us. If I don't want to see it this way, if I want to lay on the couch and eat cream-filled crap, whatever it is, anything, if I want to eat sugar twists or milk duds all day, every day, that's as much my right as living a very purposefully driven life. Both are options. I love the fact that the heavens have given us free will, but they are not options that exist without consequences. This is what's key. They are still options, but how do you like those consequences, kids? How do you like what happens if all you do is lay on your couch and eat bonbons? Try that for about 6 months and look around and see what your life looks like. Right?
Or see where those abs went.
Right. Well, and I'm talking well beyond the physicality of it.
Yeah, I know you are. I know.
I mean, the physicality is really minimal. I'm talking about the way it leaves you feeling spiritually. Your level of joy, for example, when you wake up in the morning, if you don't like yesterday's behaviors and the week before's behaviors and the years before's behaviors, when you wake up in the morning, you're not waking up happy because you're too busy being a continuation of an unfocused life. And you know you're going to be unfocused all over again. So at what point are you ready to greet today for being the brand new, fabulous day filled with newness that God had in mind? This is a new day. No matter how I behaved to this point, all things are havable as long as I'm willing to do what it takes.
So you came back to the word havable. I was going to bring this up. When you say havable, you said this wouldn't happen if this wouldn't happen, if this wouldn't happen if that wouldn't happen. And when you're saying that, I'm hearing like, all you got to do is just keep showing up.
That's
you just
correct.
Keep showing up. Show up.
That's
and
correct.
Good things will happen.
And more, and we know in 12-step programs, they teach this phrase, more will be revealed. You just have to take today's step. So here's the deal. You don't take a step, more is not revealed.
Yeah.
If you take a step, then the steps beyond that are revealed. I wrote a chapter about it years ago in a book called Lily Padding was the chapter. And it was about how the frog gets across the river. It's a metaphor, but the frog doesn't swim well in the current. So how does it get across the river? And the answer is it stair steps across the lily pads. But in this analogy, the lily pads pop up based on your willingness to take that next step of faith. And faith really works that way. That faith is on the unseen side of life. I've got a chance to step forward. And the minute I make a decision to step forward, how bold of me to say that I understand how life works. But I do. When you decide to faithfully step forward in the direction of your dreams, you take a step. The moment you make that decision, pop, here comes a lily pad, singular. And you take that step. When you hit the lily pad, it is like a pressure release situation, and two more pop up. And life goes, now you got choices. And now you can choose left or right. And when you step on either one of those, a couple of more pop up. And then more will be revealed. When you can start picturing your life that everything breeds more of itself. So inaction breeds more inaction. Action breeds action. Faith breeds more faith. So it's easier to have faith the more you practice faith. So you step onto a lily pad, you've got one. Now the minute you hit it, you've got two more. That's three. The minute you hit one of those, you've got four more. And before you know it, the river is filled with lily pads, and you can choose left, right, straight ahead, makes no difference. You're going to work your way across the river because you were willing to take that first step of faith. And for me, that was enrolling in the workshop to train as an actor. But the bigger step was the step that I took at 18 to move to Los Angeles, to pack all of my bags and go to Hollywood to do what could be labeled one of the dumbest things ever. I want to be real clear on that. This was not about being smart. On paper, it looks like one of the dumbest, most idiotic, self-centered choices you could ever make. Show them evidence to the contrary.
Mm-hmm. Wow. There you
I
go.
went out there to Hollywood on that mission. Look, Spud Webb, 5'6". No way you'll play in the NBA. Show them evidence to the contrary. Jim Abbott, one-handed pitcher in the major leagues. I'm sure when he looked in the mirror, he saw a major league pitcher. Everybody else saw a kid with a shattered future. There's no way. Jim, you're going to have to think of basically anything else. You can't play baseball, son. You've only got one hand. And even if you did play baseball, the last thing you could do is be a pitcher. The last thing, show them evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, that's great. Glenn, you talked about that next step and that faith. And sometimes I hear, like, I want to have faith, right? And there comes a consequence. But there's also the question I have is it a fear of failure that people don't want to act on faith that's at inaction, or is it a fear of the responsibility that comes with more success?
I would say yes and yes. I think both things are true. And then the override is created for me by, 100 years from now, we're all dead anyway. What difference does it make? So what are you afraid of?
Exactly.
I find that the older you get, the less fearful we are, because you're running out of time on earth. And that's not a bad thing. That was the plan all along. But, it's interesting. When we're working with fewer decades in our projected future, we've already survived all the ones that are behind us in the rearview mirror of life. It's so interesting how often people are obsessed with the past. Don't you imagine there's a reason that our rearview mirror is this big and the windshield is this big? Shouldn't that teach us something about where our focus needs to be, which is in the here and now? So with whatever time is left, I say don't spend it foolishly. Invest your time and invest it well. And there are going to be some disciplinary habits that might include a different approach to who you spend time with. And it's not come from arrogance. It's just called you don't have time to waste. So if someone else is on a completely different mission that is incompatible with yours, it makes no sense to allow that to show up as interference just so you can make sure nobody's feathers get rustled. You know that the number one thing, I read this survey, I don't know, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, a survey of 100 hospice patients who were asked to list what their 5 biggest regrets were. And I'm not going to go over all 5 because the only one that matters is their number one. Because in the upper 90 percentile, they shared the same regret. Okay, you have my attention. I want to see if all of these people who are scheduled for imminent death, if all of these people seem to agree on the same number one, even though they say it differently, the essence of the message is the same. And here's what they said in this quiz. They said that I wish I hadn't spent the entirety of my life trying to be what I thought someone else wanted me to be.
Mm.
The biggest regret. And here's the problem. It's too late to do anything about it. These were people who were dying imminently. So you've got what? Few hours, few days, couple of weeks top. You're not going to go out and do a redo at that point. So using our imagination, I think you can drive your life forward by thinking not only of what you want, but how about this? Spend some time thinking about what you don't want. Think about what you don't want and take a look if the road you're on currently and the behaviors you're practicing are leading to the very outcome you don't want. That's why it's helpful. I am not going to say focus on that because metaphysics teaches us that what we focus on increases. So if you're focusing on what you don't want, you will wind up with more of what you don't want. Yeah. We always wind up with more of what we focus on. But for the sake of learning, if you can teleport, which we can, by the way, as humans, it's called proper use and healthy use of the imagination. You can teleport to your own future. We'll call it the desired future, not just the future. And we look at the desired future and we say, well, then here are the behaviors that tend to lead to that outcome. And then we also look, we also look at the undesired future. We look at that and we think, what pathways take us to that outcome? If you don't want those futures, then the discipline is to come back, rewind to this moment, to today, and realize I have shown blatant disregard for my path choices. And I'm going to refine the way I look at the choices I make, realizing that those choices are producing consequences, even though some of them are seemingly benign, some of them seem to be inconsequential. They are not. There is also no such thing as a consequenceless decision. Let me say that word again, consequenceless, right? There's no such thing as a consequenceless decision. So once we mature to that understanding that all decisions, all choices create outcomes or consequences, then the next time you have a big decision to make, start by looking not at your desire, but start by looking at the consequence and realize I'm not okay with that consequence. I don't want that consequence. Okay, then practice behaviors that make that consequence go bye-bye. Yeah.
Glenn, have you always been, well, I know that it's not always been like this philosophy that's coming out of you, right?
Yeah.
And on all these calls I've been on with you, I hear your spirituality. Were you brought up that way, or how did that develop over time?
It's probably the greatest question you'll ask me, Rob, and the answer is it's been this way since I was 14. I I went to see a devastatingly painful movie. This is just what's showing up right now.
Hmm.
The movie was The Exorcist. I was too young to have seen it, but you know, boys will be boys, and teenagers will sneak into movies that they're too young to see. And we
I'm
went to see it.
guilty.
Yeah, I mean, we all did it, but that's one that did not have a favorable outcome because it really disturbed me deeply. Not just my current mood, it really disturbed me. I had trouble sleeping for several days after I saw that film, and I went to see it with another friend of mine. And we contacted each other by phone every day for several days about how both of us felt so messed up by it, and that frankly, we regretted seeing it. And a short time later, my friend's name was Matt. A short time later, Matt killed himself.
Oh my gosh.
And you talk about an attention getting moment about choices and consequences. I can't say that he wouldn't have done it. I will tell you that that movie accelerated whatever was wrong with him.
Oh
None of
my
it was
God.
anything I was aware of. I mean, I was a kid. You know, I was 14, Matt was 15. And I did not know how troubled he was. So I was able to shake it off after a little while, meaning the movie and its effect on darkness and perception of darkness and all of this. But I immediately, after Matt's death, and by the way, I just visited his grave for the first time about 6 weeks ago. I was there at his funeral. This was, you know, over 50 years ago. And I'd just been moved to go see his grave. They had private burial that day, but I did go to the funeral, as I said. And then I thought, I'll bet he's buried at that same cemetery. And I looked it up, and sure enough, he was. And I got the map and did something about it instead of just, you know, I wonder if. No, there is no wonder if. Do it. There's a reason you're feeling it. There's a reason. For years, I had not thought about going to his graveside. I've thought about Matt for years, but all of a sudden it's like, dude, it's time. Go pay your respects. Let's go back to that pivotal moment and just be there next to his body. And so I did it. And it was when I left, there was such a sense of agreement and peace and accomplishment only in as much as you do what you say you're going to do. This is why it bothered me so much to not be in alignment, to be right on time with doing your show, because my word is golden. And if I tell somebody I'm doing something, then I'm going to do it. So I think that's the biggest difference is make some key decisions and then find the follow through to make good on those decisions. So yeah, I've been this way. I'm 66. I was 66 when I was 14.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just have a lot more hair.
But you every time you talk, it's profound, right? You always make these profound statements. Now, is there a depth to spirituality there, like the Lord? Like I know you're a believer. You talk about it.
Yes.
So how have you developed that relationship over time?
Well, it was fairly easy for me because I had two sides of a family. I came from a broken home, and my mom and dad divorced when I was 3. We were raised by my mom for 3 years with her as a single mom before she remarried. We were Southern Baptists. When she remarried, she decided to convert to Judaism, which was not a decision that was popular with her family. And I mean, at all, right? 1965 is when she remarried. And 1965 in Dallas, Texas, I would not have described this city as open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very different time in life. So I'm sorry, you're doing what? Oh, you're going to get a divorce? Have you noticed that we don't do that in this family? Yeah, well, I do. And that was my mom's attitude. She was always somewhat of a rebel. So I even celebrate her courage to act on what she felt was correct, that her marriage was not what she wanted it to be. And they were unwilling to do what they had to do to work it out. So they divorced, first one in the history of our family. And then when she remarried, she married someone completely out of her faith. So I was raised with a spiritual tug of war with both sides suggesting that the other was wrong. But I will tell you that it was not equal. It wasn't. The Christian side was far more guilty of talking about the other side. The Jews didn't have that much to say about it. They largely minded their own business, and I didn't feel any kind of real pressure there. But I got an earful from the other side, and I thought, you know what? I have a better thought. I'm going to get to know God personally, and I'm going to learn to ignore your fear. I'm going to learn to ignore your noise and your nonsense. And I'm going to pray this prayer. Teach me, show me, guide me, lead me, so that my life would be exactly what you had in mind when you created me. And I prayed that prayer when I was 14 years old, which by that time my mom had been remarried for 8 years. I was bar mitzvahed. I still read, write, and speak Hebrew, which there's absolutely zero need for in Texas. Nobody, when they greet you in Texas, says, listen, before we become friends, I just want to make sure you do speak Hebrew, right? Okay. If your audience members are not laughing at that right now, basically just change the channel. So
I'm laughing.
That's when I developed a sense of humor, is because of what I esteemed to be ridiculousness. I had to carve my own path and say, God, I can't figure these humans out. What I do know is this. I do not want to grow up to be like them.
Yeah.
And that was my beginning of my own education spiritually, is I didn't have a hero in my life. I didn't have a mentor in my life. God was both my hero and my mentor. And it was never someone else's version of God. I don't want anyone else's version.
Yeah.
I don't want any part of it. It doesn't matter what I've been told. I'm your kid. You designed me. Tell me whatever you want to tell me, and I will promise you I will listen and obey. And that is what my life has been devoted to, is that level of sincerity, of hearing, of responding, and obeying.
And obeying is a sense of surrendering to that, correct?
Absolutely. Well, in a sense, yes, it is. It's also a surrender of believing that whispers are real. And so I have one job, and my job is to elevate my receptivity. How receptive am I to those whispers? Because everybody gets them, everybody hears whispers, but how receptive are you? When you get a whisper, Rob, and I mean this for you, my dear brother, or anybody that's listening this today, a whisper that says, don't go in that room. Don't get on that plane. Do say yes to this. Go spend more time with him or her or this group. Learn to set boundaries. Don't be involved with that circumstance. Are you listening to it, or are you just seeing it as hogwash? And the same thing is true with dreams. Dreams cannot be accidental, right? It's either all God or none of it's God. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that we can vacate the premises while we sleep in order to learn things from our subconscious mind that make us better humans, it might be interesting to take a look at why I dreamed that, why I dreamed or dreamt, depending on what word choice, and then do something about it. Dreams certainly are capable of being quite prophetic, but what happens is they cannot help us until we surrender and decide that maybe some help was actually what was in mind. And so we now open up our receptivity to include things like dreams, and therefore can benefit from the very same dreams that are not helping our neighbor. And it's not the dream's fault. It's the person for sitting in their life like this. What do you mean dreams? Dreams. It's ridiculous. So this posture in life turns out to be very costly.
Yeah. Glenn, as you're saying that, right, I'm going to put the screen up a little bit. When you say receptivity, like for me, like my whole journey started, I can tell you, July of 1990, I read my first personal growth development book, The Greatest Salesman in the World.
Oh, Mandino.
I got it right here. I got the original book that I actually read in 1990. And I was brought up Catholic because I had to be Catholic. But there was a time that I chose the Catholicism. And what would happen is I'd read these books. He was the first one I read. Then I read the second, then the third. And what would happen is they're all Jim Rohn and Ziegler, and they're all quoting scripture. And I'm like, is this bull crap or is it real? Right. So then I would open up the personal growth and development book, And then I'd open up the Bible to see if they were saying or quoting was true.
To see
And
if
it
there's
was.
a correlation.
Yeah. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, then that drew me into the Bible, because I'm like, okay, this is real. And so over time, I'm like, I felt like I'm learning, I'm reading. I've read 1,300 books over the last 30 some years. And I'm like, God's giving me this gift of awareness because I took action and read. And to me, when you say receptivity, I have awareness, this level of alertness. And when you have that level of alertness and you have this awareness, you clear the lines and you're able to receive.
Yes.
And so like the book is, Better Than You Think, developing awareness to live a more fulfilling life. And when hearing you talk about what you were talking about, if you put yourself in a position that you're able to receive, you are going to live a more fulfilling life.
Yes.
That's what I believe.
Yes. Well, you're missing out on really significant broadcasts. If you close your mind, you're going to miss some really significant broadcasts, life-changing, I would even say, that there are broadcasts that change your life. My physical life would have ended years ago had I ignored a couple of whispers. 3 different ones. I won't get into it right now, just in the interest of time. Maybe that'll be a part 2 on another interview, but just where I was being given information that you're, quote, supposed to not be able to receive, but it was there and I knew it. And I've been given the gift of being whispered to in the face of danger. And that's been that way my whole life. I call it the protective whisper, where something informs me that I need to be aware of a vibe and be anywhere other than where I am right now. I need to leave. Why? Because this space is getting ready to get ugly, and you're being warned before warnings are more blatant. So I call whispers not only our warning system, our divine internal guidance system, but it's also our earliest warning system, that it's the first level. How many times in our lives do we shake somebody's hand and we instantly light up? And we also shake somebody's hands and we instantly get a uh-uh. And it's nothing that they've said. It's nothing they've said. It's we are being forewarned, you got trouble. This person is not about equality. This person is not about health. This person is certainly not about love. This person is going to be a problem if you metaphorically, and God forbid, literally, get in bed with them.
Yeah.
This is not someone you want to go in business with. And we are given these signals, again, for our own protection. Why else would they exist? Why is there something within me, Rob, and within you that when you shake somebody's hand, you automatically, if you're dialed in, will have clarity that says yes or no. Red light, green light. It says, yes, more. I love this vibe. Let's do this. Certainly how I felt when I met you was
I appreciate that.
Green.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Glenn. I could talk to you for another hour, but I got to ask this question. I always ask this question to my guests.
What we do, get like 1/5 of the questions you had written down?
I had no questions written down. I told you beforehand. This is
all good. Okay, good.
I have no questions.
Well, then you're okay with it having traveled the way it has. That's great.
I told you I let the Holy Spirit guide the way. I told you that. Yeah. So I have no questions written down. So here's a question. You're 66 years old. You're this deep thinker, very philosophical, very spiritual. You've done a lot. Where else going forward in your life do you feel God's going to chisel you?
I have been the answer I'm getting ready to give you has been my answer for a very long time. So this is not a newly shaped answer. I am at that joyous sweet spot in life where I welcome more of the same. I don't have unfulfilled dreams. I really don't. I know it's very common for people to say, just keep stay hungry and this and that. I love when I look around and just take that big whiff. Right now, my nose is not working so good, but I take that big whiff of the smell of the roses. I love my life. The single most important thing I think we can say to bless our day is the phrase, I love my life. and I say it in the mornings and I say it out loud. I love my life and I truly dig the assignment. Those two things are the most important things for me to say each new day. I love my life, which means I love it all over again. I don't care whatever movies I have not yet made. That is irrelevant. I've been taken care of so abundantly in a financial way. The remuneration that has come from a successful show business career has me comfortably set financially. I've been married to the same woman for 47 years. November the 8th will be our 50th year together as a couple because we dated for 2 years, right? So November the 8th, it's 50 years that we've been a team. We've been blessed to have two beautiful children, and I even got a chance to see what it felt like to be a father to both a son and a daughter instead of two sons or two daughters, which certainly would have been fine. As they say in Judaism, dayenu, that would have been fine. It would have been enough. But I know what it's like to have a son and a daughter. Both of them are sane, contributing members to society. Neither one of them have a drug or alcohol issue. We have no acting out with regard to us worrying. We don't worry about our children. Our children are grown. They're 45, soon to be 46. Greg will be 46 next month. We had them when we were very young. I became a dad before I could legally drink a beer in California.
So did I.
I haven't had alcohol in me in 5 years, and I'm one of the odd ducks. I stopped drinking because it wasn't productive. I didn't stop drinking because drinking was an issue. Drinking was not an issue. At the time I stopped, my intake was like 2 glasses of red wine a month. Yeah. This is not a problem drinker. So I took drinking off of the schedule because I didn't see it producing favorable consequences. These are unemotional decisions of basically sifting your life. Is it doing wonderful things for me? No, then I don't need it. Plain and simple. And it was effortless to do it because I wasn't addicted to it in the first place. And I got to tell you, I have loved my alcohol-free life. Alcoholism killed my one and only sibling. My brother died at 62, and the last at least 3 decades of his life were utterly destroyed by alcohol. And finally, he had one thing left, and that was his life. Prior to that, he had a lot of things left, and systematically, it destroyed each one of those things, leaving him with just his physical life and nothing else. And then it said, and now I'm going to take that as well. So it's very tough to befriend something that I watched eliminate my brother. So my thought is, I'm better off without the substance that killed my own brother.
Wow. That's it. It's powerful. That's powerful. Glenn, man, I could go on and on and on here, and I just appreciate your time. And
sure.
You know, if I know you have the acting class and the speaking class, and as I let you go here, if somebody wanted to get involved in the acting or the speaking training that you provide,
the best thing would be to go to glennmorshower.com.
Okay.
GLENNMORSHOWER.com. There's information about classes. I do teach 4 classes a week. They are on Mondays and Tuesdays, so I only work 2 days a week. I so hated the 5 and 2 that I decided I was a bigger fan of 2 and 5. Right? And even though those are long days, I still have 5 days to do whatever I want. And what's interesting is teaching is what I love. So even my job isn't a job. It's playtime for me.
And I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand, and it's awesome. So I'd encourage anybody to do it. Glenn, thank you so much for your time today. I asked you to hang on a minute when we hang up here, but you've been awesome. You're fighting through this cold, and I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful for all the wisdom you share.
Yeah, I love you, brother. You're very special.
Love you too. And look, until next time, everybody, let's go get chiseled.